Thank you so much for being with us today. We are truly excited about the opportunity to spend a couple of hours with all of you in recognition and celebration of the wonderful work that we do at the YWCA of Central Carolinas. I'm Tammy Simmons, and I have the honor of being board chair for the YW, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest things I've ever done. We have an amazing staff. We do amazing work, and the people we serve are some of the best and brightest in Charlotte. So thank you for celebrating all of that good work with us. I am quickly going to bless the food, and then we promise we're going to give you a few more minutes to talk and to spend a couple of minutes catching up with friends. So if you will, let us bless the food. Let us give thanks to the Creator today for our many blessings. The blessings of faith, love for our neighbors, and our undying commitment to service. We ask the Almighty to call each of us into this service with giving hearts and willing spirits. And we know that we can be entrusted as we do good and we unite in building a patient and inclusive world where everyone is empowered to be self-sufficient and where everyone is truly free. Let us be inspired today by the friendship around us in this room and the joy that comes from within us. Let us be filled with high ideals and expectations to perform amazing things, for we will succeed in all we set out to accomplish when our mission is to serve and care for the many. We ask the Creator to bless the meal we are about to share as we honor our friendship and service and fill our hearts with grateful praise.
Good afternoon. I hate to be the one to interrupt the great food and fellowship that people are experiencing today, but we do want to move forward with the program, so we encourage you to continue to dine and get ready to be inspired and to learn and be motivated. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jay Everette. I am Community Affairs Manager for Wells Fargo, and it is my pleasure and honor today to welcome you on behalf of not only Wells Fargo, but our other lead corporate sponsor, US Airways, and to be real honest with you, to represent, quite frankly, all of the companies and businesses and individuals and table sponsors that are here today investing in the YWCA. I will say it is a beautiful day in Charlotte, and that may be a little bit of a perceived misnomer, but to be honest with you, my grandmother had a saying. It was something like, if you don't understand the rain, you won't appreciate it when the sun does shine. And so in the room today, leaving the elements outside, the warmth and the heartfelt greetings that we received, whether it was from children that are benefiting from the YWCA's programming, or whether it was just hugging an old friend and an acquaintance, it's really warm and sunshiny and beautiful in this room. Wells Fargo and US Airways both support many programs at the YWCA because, quite frankly, we believe in their broader mission. Anything that they can do to help us empower women on an individual or even collective level, the things that they do to support families around rallying around their children to learn, supporting families that are in transition, and even single women who are in transition, are very important roles that we need them to help play in this community. But quite frankly, we all play a role in wrapping our arms around the people that need support. Today's lunch is a fundraising lunch, I will add, and I share that with you just to say this is one of those moments where we do get to step up and invest personally in a program that's meaningful to all of us across the whole community. So on behalf of Wells Fargo Advisors and our private bank, and also US Airways, but also keeping in mind the spirit of community that all of our contributors and sponsors have have brought together today to support this great event and this great organization, it's my pleasure to welcome you. I'm going to continue an apt metaphor. Without rain, you really don't appreciate the sunshine, and every once in a while we get a rainbow. And I would say that Kirsten Sikkelee is definitely a rainbow in our community. She is CEO and president of the YWCA. And as you can tell from that response, her leadership in the community is needed and appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, Kirsten Sikkelee.
Well, thank you, Jay Everette, my friend, for such a beautiful, beautiful welcome. And it is so amazing to see all of you here today. I love coming into this room and seeing old friends and new friends and introducing people to our mission. So I would like to just take one more moment to ask everyone in this room to help me thank our two signature sponsors today, Wells Fargo and US Airways. I also want to thank all of the wonderful sponsors who helped make this event possible so that it could be a fundraiser to support all of our programs. In addition to our signature sponsors, we have a list of terrific partners to thank, and I'd like to ask if you'd kindly hold your applause until the end. Our sustaining sponsors are Apartment Realty Advisors, CBS Radio, Fifth Third Bank, and Piedmont Natural Gas. Our maintaining sponsors are Alston & Bird, Apollo Graphics, AT&T North Carolina, Bank of America, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, Brown Brothers Harriman, Carolina's Healthcare System, Coca-Cola Bottling Company Consolidated, Compass Group Food Buy, Dixon Hughes Goodman, Duke Energy, Faison Enterprises, First Citizens Bank, Food Lion, McGuire Woods, and Morgan Stanley, the Young Group. Jay was not kidding when he talked about the broad spectrum of community support. Please help me thank these wonderful sponsors. Before sharing some of our highlights from this year, I wanted to touch on an important housekeeping item. As you leave today, but at the end of our program, not before, there is an arm in the parking garage that will be up so that you do not need a validated voucher or a token to leave. On behalf of the board and staff, I want to thank you for being a part of our YWCA family, whether you are an old or new friend, and for taking the time to be with us today. I know it's a commitment to be here. We've had a really fantastic year since many of us were all together in this ballroom last year. We made some exciting changes to our co-ed fitness center. We welcomed our new director. We added new instructors. We started what we call pop-up classes to sample and gauge interest of our members. We've offered bar tone and spin, and we have a fantastic YW Tri Club that did 4 sessions of triathlon training this past year with 60 participants, and several of them had podium finishes. Woohoo! I did not do that, I need you to know. The program was just amazing, and we also offered a new trend, a very helpful trend in injury-free walking and running called Chi Running and Chi Walking, and that was launched as a specialty training program to rave reviews. So if you are looking for a fitness home and you want a comfortable place to improve your health and wellness, I hope you will join us at Park Road. Together, we also continue to work towards the elimination of racism and towards racial justice, weaving it throughout everything that we do. Most recently, last month, we hosted a community breakfast forum, which we've begun to do each year. This one was on eugenics and the ethics of reparations, which was also a topic of a Charlotte Talk segment, and also became a news segment among our state legislature on restarting these discussions of reparations. We were very encouraged to see the people who participated get involved in advocacy and to see action follow advocacy, especially on such a bipartisan level. We're planning our 4th annual Stand Against Racism this spring. It will be in April, the last Friday of April. It's an event we share with YWCAs throughout the country, and it will include an art exhibit at Park Road as well as a public stand at Trade and Tryon. I hope you'll look for our communications to you about participating with us in that event. In youth programs, it was a very special year. We greeted the school year opening our 11th Youth Learning Center at Billingsville Elementary. It's a summer camp and after-school program for 45 youth, kindergarten through 5th grade. At Billingsville Elementary, over 95% of the students are eligible for free and reduced lunch, and the challenges of poverty run very deep there. But the staff and the volunteers at that school are really amazing and very committed to those families, and we would not be able to run that program without the full support of Myers Park Presbyterian Church, which completely underwrote operations for the entire year. Please give them a hand for me. In addition to that Youth Learning Center, we have 10 others, and in all 11 of our Youth Learning Centers, literacy remains a top priority for our students, several of whom you've met today. By the way, the children that greeted you today are all on the A and B honor roll. And that's how they got to get out of school today. Family support and engagement is a top priority for us as well, because as we all know, children do better in school and in life when they have engaged parents and family members that are joining with others who care about their academic performance and their personal development. In transitional housing, women in
because I've been someone in need, I wanted to go out and be able to support another family besides my family, because I feel like the Y is family.
After school's over, I come to the YWCA to do my homework and tennis, and I'll do guitar. If I had the choice to stay home or come here, I would come here.
There's so many things that he gets to do that he normally wouldn't get to do. I'm just so thrilled that he has the opportunity to be here and experience all the things that he does.
I have hope here, and I didn't have that before. I'm just grateful to this place. I look at it like they're helping me get started.
The YWCA Central Carolinas has been responding to the needs of the community since 1902, and we hope to continue to advance issues of social justice in this community for many, many more decades to come. I really want to thank the people who shared their stories in the video. I know that we get to see wonderful videos about people's programs, but we sometimes don't realize the courage it takes to share a part of yourself like that. So thank you all. So for our mission to be realized, our mission of eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all people, we all have to be involved in that. We all have to share a concern for people who are living on the margins. And it's my privilege to get to introduce our keynote speaker today, who makes a lifetime habit of advocating for people living on the margins. Sister Simone Campbell, the executive director of Network and one of the inspiring nuns on the bus, is someone that I started writing introduction for a couple of weeks ago before I had the pleasure of spending about 7 hours with her yesterday. And I have to tell you, I didn't know nuns were so fun. We all have come to love her, and we want her to move to Charlotte. But a little of her background. Sister Simone Campbell, for those of you who don't know, has served as the executive director of Network in DC since 2004. She's a religious leader, an attorney, and a poet. with extensive experience in public policy and advocacy for systemic change, not just putting Band-Aids on things. She lobbies on issues of peace building, immigration reform, healthcare, and economic justice. Around the country, she's a noted speaker and educator on public policy issues, and she believes sincerely that we are hungry to have conversations across differences, no matter how difficult those conversations can be. During the 2010 congressional debate about healthcare reform, she wrote the famous Nuns letter supporting the reform bill, and she got 59 leaders of Catholic sisters to sign on. This action was cited by many as imperative in passing the Affordable Care Act. She was thanked by our President Obama and invited to the ceremony celebrating its being signed into law. In 2012, she was instrumental in organizing the Nuns on the Bus. It was a tour of 9 states organized to oppose the Ryan budget approved by the House of Representatives. This was a budget that would decimate the very programs meant to help people such as the YWCA serves. Whether she's speaking at the 2012 Democratic National Convention, on the Colbert Report, or the Daily Show, or right here with us today at the YWCA's luncheon, she is focused in a laser-like and unwavering way in highlighting those who are struggling on the margins. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Sister Simone Campbell.
Ready or not. What a treat to be here. I was counting it up and I realized in under 12 months I've been in Charlotte 6 times. You're getting to be one of my favorite destinations. Well, I was asked to give a little context because not everybody knows about Nuns on the Bus, and that is a puzzling title. So what I wanted to let you know is that Nuns on the Bus took place last June, but it all got started actually with healthcare reform. But then in April of 2012, the Vatican in Rome named our organization, that is composed of 10 full-time staff, named us as a problem for the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. All of the women religious in the United States leaders belong to this organization. And our little group was cited as a problem for them. Well, I was a bit surprised. I was surprised, one, that the Vatican even knew we existed, to say nothing of the fact that they could find us problematic. And very quickly, I was taking phone calls from the media about, well, what do you think, and what's happening, and what's going on, and you know how the media, pardon me, media folks that are here, but you know how they love conflict. So that was great, you know, nuns fight Vatican. But what I realized was that's not what we're about. That isn't what Catholic sisters do. You don't go looking for the limelight for ourselves. So I said, how could we use this moment of notoriety for our mission? And our mission, as Kirsten said, is to lift up the issues of those who live on the margins of our society. And so what came to me in prayer, I'm a person of faith, so you gotta listen to a little prayer stuff, but what came to me in prayer was to ask for help, because this was way beyond our capacity to deal with. I mean, we were like stunned. So on May 14th, we had a meeting at our office, and no one knows who first said road trip. But somehow, at the end of an hour and a half, we were going on the road in a wrapped bus. Now, I had no idea what a wrapped bus was, but that's what we were going to use. And it turned into this glorious bus. It's plastic wallpaper that goes on the outside of buses that was just exquisitely beautiful. And we did go on this 15-day journey. And what I want to do is to share with you some of the stories from the bus, because what I discovered on the bus, quite like what I discovered yesterday at the Y, is that everywhere there are good people struggling hard, making community, and making a difference in our world. And I want to share with you some of those stories to encourage you as you work to make a difference here in Charlotte. Well, the first one that I want to share is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we went to St. Benedict's Dining Room, and it's in central Milwaukee, and every night different groups come to serve dinner to about 600 to 1,000 people. And among the people I met were Billy and his wife, and I got to sit next to Billy having dinner, and I got talking with him. And he explained to me that he and his wife are working, but they're working for minimum wage. And his hours had gotten cut back in the recession. But he was working as many hours as he could get, but they were still living in poverty. And so they were relying on some help right now. And Billy said he and his wife had decided to use their salaries to pay for the rent and use food stamps to pay for food during the day for their boys, and then to use the dining room at night. And Billy said to me, you know, sister, sometimes parents only need maybe 2 meals a day. We can do that. But you know, our boys, and I looked over, and here was this 14-year-old boy, one of those gangly kids that has just had this growth spurt. And this kid was eyeing the roll left on his dad's plate. And you could just see him so eager. And finally, Billy says, okay, you can have it. Oh, good, Dad. I think there was a thank you, I'm not quite sure. But he quickly got devoured. And then Billy was talking about how food stamps make it possible for him to feed his family and keep a roof over their heads. And I was thinking, oh, I'm so grateful that that program's there. But then I realized it's good for Billy and his wife and his 2 boys. But then I realized it's not just good for Billy, it's good for his employer. His employer can have a fed employee working reduced hours in this tough economy and being paid minimum wage, low wages. And then I realized, oh my heavens, this is a safety net not just for the employee or the employer. It's a safety net for the consumer because it's keeping our costs down. And I realized we are in this together. For whatever reason we have currently chosen to provide a safety net so that our workers can feed their families, our low-wage workers can feed their families. We benefit, all of us benefit from this safety net. So this is why we went on the road opposing the riot budget, because Paul... What do you think? I started to talk politics, and look what happened. I really wasn't going to say anything really bad. I think we're okay. Oh, wait a minute. Are we okay, guys? Okay, whatever that was. What'd I do? What? Don't touch anything. Okay. I use my hands. I'll try not to. All right. We went on the road because of Paul Ryan. Let's see if I can say it without getting in trouble. Because Paul Ryan, in his budget, proposed significantly cutting food stamps and eliminating food stamps for those who were employed, claiming that they didn't need it, that it was just the states trying to mooch off the federal government. Well, and that it was creating dependency. Well, it might be creating dependency, but it's creating dependency of an employer as well as the consumer, as well as the employee. And Paul Ryan told me, well, you know, churches can take care of that. Churches can do it. But it was so bad. What they were proposing was that the Bread for the World, a nonpartisan group in DC, figured out that every synagogue, every church, every mosque, every house of worship in the United States, every single one of them, would each have to raise an additional $50,000 every year for 10 years to make up the difference. Well, I don't know about your church, but mine couldn't do that. We're having enough trouble fixing the roof. So what I came to know was that we're in this together. And some problems are so big that we need some federal help. But it's the federal help that gets us started, but it's not the end of the story. It's not that the government so big is going to take over and do it. No, it can't be done unless we all do our part. If we all do our part, then the Billies and his family can eat. Then the folks at the Y can have a secure home. Then we can know that we're community together. Let me tell you about this one young woman we met in Dubuque, Tia, because I was reminded of her yesterday in the fabulous services that are provided in the Families program at the Y. I got to see their place and to see one of the apartments. It's magnificent. And the integrated services that they provide to help folks develop some new patterns reminded me of Tia. Tia was 19 and a half and had 2 kids. She had been in foster care since she was 8 years old. She had never known, from the time she was 8, had never been in a home longer than 9 months before she was moved, and had never learned that she was loved. And so when she ran away at 16 and thought the only way she could avoid being homeless is if she got together with men. And that's how she ended up with 2 kids. But finally, she got connected with a shelter in Dubuque after being seriously abused. And the sisters that ran the shelter got her into transitional housing. And in transitional housing, just like you have here at the Y, she learned for the first time. She told me that she had never known that structure was. That putting your kids to bed at the same time every night was a good idea. Hugging them and reading them a story was possible. That she didn't have to be scared that she wouldn't be able to feed them, so she could hug them and not feel guilty. What she learned in the transitional housing about budgeting, about caring for her kids, and about the fact that she could love them and be loved herself without having these really horrible situations continue for the next generation. Tia broke a generation, multi-generations of abuse by utilizing these integrated services. And it's those very same services that are provided at the Y. They make a difference in breaking the cycle. And it is so important that we step in and support these amazing women making those changes. So let me tell you just one more, because my heart was touched by those little kids yesterday in their after-school program. And in Toledo, I met Matt and Mark, these 10-year-old twins, quite like those kids the boys that were escorting us up. That was just really great. They told me they want to be football players. I was encouraging them for some other college degree, but they told me they want to be football players. But what I learned from Matt and Mark, these twins in Toledo, was Matt was this quivering bundle of emotion. And I felt like if I looked at him cross-eyed, he was going to cry. And Mark is this strong kid. You could see the twins had divided up their responsibilities. Mark was this tough kid, and he was in charge, and he shook my hand, and he was really right there. And what turned out was they had been suspended from school for fighting. And apparently somebody was picking on Matt, and Mark slugged him. And to everyone's surprise, Matt then slugged the kid. So when they got into this special after-school program, the staff did a home visit. And I know for the Y, it's very important to have parents involved because that's about creating family. So what happened was they did a home visit and discovered that Matt and Mark's mom was bedridden with multiple sclerosis and diabetes. The kids were her only caretaker, and these boys were trying to take care of their mom. Well, what I discovered was the mom had not gotten any kind of health care, and so the sisters got her both some emergency care and began taking care of the boys. And Mark gave me a tour of their little clubhouse up on the 3rd floor of a 120-year-old rectory, a house next to a church. And he's showing me the beauty of the place, or what he called, where they did their work and the computers and all this. And then he asked me, do you want to see something pretty? Well, they have a 10-year-old boy ask me if I want to see something pretty. That was absolutely, I had no idea what he was going to do. Well, it could have been everything from a football poster to heaven knew what. But he went over, opened the door, flipped on the light, and it was a newly refinished bathroom. And the light played off the tiles, and they were white, shiny tiles that had a blue fern pattern. And he looks at it and he says, "Isn't it beautiful?" And then he reaches out his finger and runs it along one of the tiles and says, "You can touch them if you want." And when I touched it, it had that little beveled edge, the fern pattern had kind of a little tactile piece to it. But what I realized was it was amazing that a 10-year-old with such circumstances could see beauty. But it was amazing the beauty in this young kid who was finding some security, who was beginning to flourish, who knew that his mom was being taken care of and he could relax a bit. It's that kind of after-school program that becomes essential to help our kids grow in tough circumstances. Which brings me to the last little point I want to make. You all here in North Carolina, this is my missionary work, you all have some choices ahead of you about health care. And I just want to encourage you to encourage your governor and legislature to expand Medicaid to cover those who are currently, the low-income folks that are currently uninsured. The single women without custody of kids that reside, the 63 of them I think I heard, that reside at the Y, unless they have health care through employment, and since most of them are low-wage employees, they're not going to have health care. So they are not going to have access to any medical services unless Medicaid gets expanded. For me, that's a pro-life stance, that everyone in the richest nation on earth should have access to health care. It's the best we could do. But remember how I said in the beginning that we're in this together. The fact is, even if you don't like the Affordable Care Act, the fact is the law currently is they're going to reduce the payments to hospitals for the uninsured because the federal government has been giving your local hospitals money for those that serve the uninsured to help cover the costs. So the plan is that there's going to be Medicaid coverage, what we call dish payments will be reduced. But if you don't have expanded care coverage, your hospitals are going to experience a reduction in payments from the federal government, and you're not going to get the benefit of where that money's supposed to be shifted to cover Medicaid. And so your hospitals, as well as all of us, are going to end up suffering because of it. This is an integrated plan that was passed by Congress, and if you mess with one piece of it, you're going to unravel the rest of it, and it's going to hurt all of us. Because really, it's a public health issue. So I urge you, study it. Even if you have different opinions, that's fabulous. Have different opinions. but let's be realistic about what we need in the richest nation on earth. That's the challenge that we're facing. And so I ask you to think of the women that reside at the Y. I ask you to think of Margaret, who died in Cincinnati at 56 years old because when she lost her job of 20 years, she lost her health care in the recession. She got colon cancer, and she died unnecessarily. Margaret should not have died. But do you know what? There's estimated 22,000 Margarets who die every year because they don't have access to care. That's wrong. That's wrong. And here, and in our Constitution, for our amazing nation, it's we the people who form this more perfect union. And we the people of Charlotte utilize some services from the federal government. It's not a heresy and it's not unpatriotic. It's important because some issues are too big to handle just locally. Healthcare is one of them. It's too big. But the piece that we count on is that we the people come together in groups like this all over our nation to put our piece into it, to be a part of the community that nurtures these young kids, that nurtures these young moms, that give people a second chance, and that lifts our whole community up. Because then we know we the people of the United States do form a more perfect union. And we establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, but promote the general welfare. But the best part of all is that your action will secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and, most important, those kids we saw this morning and all the ones that follow them, us and our posterity. Keep up your good work, Charlotte. We need you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here today at the YWCA in honor of our mission and all of the great work that we do. Before I get started, I just wonder if we could give one more round of applause. That was just so phenomenal. What a great storytelling. Thank you so much, Sister Simone, for everything you do and for coming here today. My name is Loree Elswick, and I have had the honor and the privilege of serving on the board of directors for the YWCA for the last 6 years. And I have to tell you, it's been an incredible experience. I have learned so much about myself and so much about my community. I've learned what it means to provide an opportunity for families who are facing homelessness to stay together. I've learned what it means to see women who are truly working to transform their lives and realize that all they needed was a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of space where they could be safe to work on themselves. And I've spent time with our fantastic children and with their families and seen firsthand what it means for a single working mother to know that her child has a safe place to go after school, where her children can get help with their homework, where they can play games and sports, and basically just be safe to be who they are. So in honor of all that I have learned at the YWCA, I want to share with you one of the most important things that I've learned over the last 6 years. So I'm going to ask a question. How many of you were here at our luncheon last year? Would you raise your hand? Okay, you can put your hand down. One of the most important things that I've learned at the YWCA is, if you cannot remember how much money you gave last year, that means you did not give enough. Now, I care about you. I care about every one of you. And I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you again this year. So I'm going to ask that every single one of us give a gift this year to the YWCA that is meaningful. So if you will, our table hosts, will you please get out your goodie bags and hand out our packets? Stacy, will you be our table host? Wendy, will you be a table host for 24? Would you mind? While they're doing that, I want to share with you